Hello everybody. In this video we are going to be looking at a buck 110. This will be the first buck we've looked at in detail on this channel. For the most part I focus on case knives, but I started off with collecting bucks. There's a few things why I focus on case instead of buck. The first thing is that I really like the 110 and the 112, but the problem is that to me they're too big to everyday carry in your pocket. I would prefer to carry a slip joint, a smaller slip joint of some sort. That's me personally. And the other thing about it is, if you look at buck slip joints, to me they're just, in my opinion, they're not quite up to the standard of cases. The back springs a lot of times are a little weaker. They don't have the handle selection. Most of them are a black Delrin. And because of that, I seem to focus on collecting case. Nevertheless, I do like bucks. And today I'm going to show one of my favorite bucks that I have here. You can see this one here is just a common buck 110, and a buck 110 has brass bolsters and a wood handle. It's a single-bladed knife with a... Wait a minute. That's not a buck 110, that's a case peanut. How'd that get in the buck 110 case? Let me look around here and see if I can find my buck 110. Oh, here he is. I found him. This is the knife we're going to be looking at. I don't know about that peanut. He's all the time getting in everything. This right here is a classic buck 110. Now this is an older 110. I picked this one up at a pawn shop. And if you compare it to a modern 110, you'll notice there's some unique differences. This right here is a modern buck 110 for comparison. If you look at these two knives, you're going to notice a few things. The first thing that I want to point out is that this is the older one. It has 3 pins, where the newer one is going to have 4 pins there on the handle. Another thing you're going to notice different is this one on the right is a new buck. It's a 2020 model. You can see it's got a stainless steel spacer between the brass, where this older one has a brass spacer between the brass. Another thing you're going to notice is that there was a time when buck used to make their knives with a square handle. They purposefully left the edges squared off. And the reason, from my understanding, was it kept the knife from twisting in your hand. And so when you held it like this, the harsh edges, the square edges, would keep the knife from turning on you if your hands were wet. But people kind of kept talking about it, so Buck finally relented and said, okay, we'll smooth it out. And they smoothed the knife on out and rounded it more. And if you find a square buck, it's an older knife. Now, they did the same thing with the 112. I've got an older one that's square and a newer one with a rounded side. The other thing that's really neat about this older 110 here is when you open up the blade, you're going to notice that the buck stamp is upside down. This is what's known as an inverted tang stamp buck. And if you compare it to this other buck here, you'll see that on this buck it's right. Wait a minute, that's that peanut again. That it's right side up. Here you can see buck 110. See how that if you're holding the handle in your hand with the tip pointed up, you can see the tang stamp right there. Where on this older one, it's going to be upside down, holding the knife in the same orientation. You got to invert the knife, flip it upside down to read the tang stamp. Now that makes this knife kind of unique. I picked that knife up at a pawn shop, and I think I paid $20 for that knife. I either paid 20 or 25. I did a bundle with some other knives, and so I either paid 20 or 25. It depended how you worked it out on how much you was paying for the other ones. But from my understanding, and a lot of you all out there know a lot more about these buck 110s. Any information you have about these, comment down below. But from my limited knowledge, these were made between 1968 to about 1972, something along those lines with this inverted stamp. You also notice that the blade here is a little bit different shape, and that's just Buck has kind of changed the shape a speck over the years. The older one actually has a slightly longer blade, which is interesting. And the look of it's just a little bit different. Again, this is a 2020, and this is somewhere between 68 to 72. Again, in the comments, if you know exactly which year it was that the Buck 110 had an inverted tang stamp, 3 pins, and a brass spacer all at the same time, let me know down in the bottom. But I know it was somewhere between 1968 and 1972. Of course, being a Buck, it's got a good lock back on it, a good nice snap. It's got no wiggle in it, and the condition on this one's pretty good. It has the normal nicks and dings that you see on an Buck 110 that's been used and is over 50 years old. But it's a nice knife, and I like Bucks. I just don't collect them as much as I collect cases. But nevertheless, it's a good knife, and I enjoy it. The Buck 110, for this style of knife, where you got brass liners and a wood handle and a lock back with a single blade, you can't beat the Buck 110. It looks great. But I would like Case, if they would someday, make a single-bladed trapper with brass bolsters and a wood handle. Wouldn't that be cool? Just like that, a single-bladed trapper with brass liners and a wood handle, and if they would, make it a lock back. That way it would give you a smaller, slimmer version of a Buck 110. I'd sure buy one if they made that. Nevertheless, the Buck 110 is a great hunting knife. It's a strong, sturdy knife. It's a great user. And when you buff it up and polish it up, it's a pretty knife to look at. Everybody out there, you have a good day, and keep your knives sharp.